Good morning. This is Tom Pizzuti with Trading on the Mark. Today is Thursday, the 8th. We'll watch what's happening in the equity futures markets today. It's the the move yesterday was certainly a short term negative. We're pretty much right at the open now. I have a minor negative bias while we're under 66.50. Might get a new little swing low in here, but I am loath to jump on that the top is in now. Could it? Maybe. I mean, we had this touch of the last high in the futures way back into last year and came off of that. So, could the high be in? Well, maybe, but let's not go there just yet. I'm kind of having the sniffles, so I'm going to mute my mic for a little while. That measured level that I came up with at 66.50, that roughly corresponds with the Globex hourly 20 EMA. There was some effort to try to push down from it here at the open, uh, somewhat more successful in the NQ. NQ actually made a new swing low for the day, whereas YM is trying to bounce, which is kind of holding ES up. So that's sort of problematic for a bear. I'm not doing anything. I'm watching. I do believe there's some econ news at 10. Yes. Okay, NQ's pushing down again. Okay, I'm going to wonder if NQ is going to try to firm up a little bit here. Do we need another little intraday low in NQ and maybe an ES? Not sure. Certainly that is what the early movement is. Cat is cranky. Don't know what his problem is. Okay, NQ pushed lower. Join chat here. Good morning, Kurt.
Good morning. Yeah, I like your idea that this could be a fourth wave. It went down to a level that I would think is the previous fourth wave.
I mean, whether to say is that certainly the trade, the early morning trade is down, but I'm I'm hesitant to kind of pound the table for a reversal, a serious reversal down just yet. But mostly because it just doesn't kind of set up with some timing. So the timing is more for sort of next week sometime. So we would be a little early in setting a high. Not that that couldn't happen, but I think we kind of probably should give it a little bit more time. And face it, we still have higher lows. This is all, the trend is up. So as much as I want to be bearish, probably probably too early to pound the table for the end of this thing. But how do things end? Slowly then quickly. So we'll see. But for now, the trying to push down from the MA, if probably the easiest way to describe this is. It was a fair trade. It's just that you got to be careful about how much you're trying to get out of it, how long you hold it. Plus, we do have some news coming out a little later here at 10 o'clock. So, I don't know if you could really count on a continuation trade. I think you had to kind of be short, take some profit and then see what happens.
I don't see anything on the Market Watch news schedule for 10 a.m. today.
I do believe it is wholesale inventories.
They didn't have that on their list. Okay.
Give me 1 second here and I will kind of copy paste.
That's okay. Sometimes they aren't complete in their list.
Yeah, and it's like I say, I don't think it's a like terribly important news. Uh, these guys when they mark things as with orange, that's sort of medium value.
Which source have you been using for that?
I've used Financial Juice for years and years and years and years.
Maybe I should just switch to that.
Uh, so they do have a squawk service that I do get because I paid for it, very, very early. They had one of these kind of things of, like, look, if you kind of get a founder's edition, so to speak, which basically helps us develop it, then, you just get it after that. So, I've been using that. There's others out there that are pretty good, but are, you know, quite expensive. Um, I like this one has a good sort of value to it. I think that it's reasonably priced and does exactly what I want, which is I just want to hear the news. I don't want to hear analysis. I don't know what you think. I don't care about what you may or may not think about the news. It's irrelevant to me. All I care about is something happened. That's all I want. That's all I want to hear about. So that's what they do. So whenever there's a news item, they they let you know. They also watch, the social media and stuff for the market moving type things and let you know when that happens. So whenever the market starts acting funny, um, that's usually they kind of pop up and say, "Oh yeah, there's been a tweet by somebody that said so and so," and that's being reacted to. So, and that's all I care about. I just want to know what's happened. So anyway, yeah, but anyway, they you can just uh, I do believe their site has that even for free. This what I just posted as a their econ calendar, which is pretty good. There's other ones out there, but I've used this one for a long time. Okay, so we're finally getting a good push down in ES. ES made a new low. Well, I should say, put it this way: a new low versus of the 4 hour open. It is not on a new Globex low. The Globex low was made very early this morning, something around 1 o'clock. So let's see if they could go retest that. And again, that would be around 37, and then kind of a measured move if we treat this is an A, this is a B, and coming down into a C, which this sort of has a 5 wave look kind of going on, moving down a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, maybe a 3 here, a 4, and then moving down in a fifth. So we would hope to get a new low. Again, we got a new low on the 4 hour chart. I mean, the 4 hours, 4 a.m. start time. We didn't get a new Globex low yet, but it's certainly possible. I would probably lower stops if you're short, but I wouldn't buy. What time is it? 9:46. Yeah, NQ is kind of bouncy. Could still go down a little bit lower. There's an action zone in NQ a little bit lower. We'll see if it could get that after a bounce. If it's going to move lower, you would hope that it would kind of do so around in this range. I am not committed to lower in ES. I don't think it's required. You say, but hey, Todd, what about this Globex low? Well, I kind of don't like the Asian session, right? I don't really trust these numbers necessarily that are made in, the very, very early morning, like midnight, 1 o'clock. That's all, suspect to me. The fact that we got a new low on this 4 a.m. start chart is would be good enough. I wouldn't call that a problem. And then NQ went ahead and made a new low, so we'll see. But I think you have to be careful about being bearish right now because we could have a completed pattern now. What do the internal things look like? Let's see. The OEX simple average of OEX components is rising, which makes sense because YM is on fire. What does the NQ one look like? Okay, it's just followed down with the NQ.
ES is doing the same. Well, S&P is doing the same thing as OEX is doing, rising.
Yeah, so I think it's tough to be bearish right now. So now, whether or not you actually want to buy, well, maybe a little early, but definitely got to watch being short. We probably need to have NQ kind of finish its business. So we're kind of watching to see if NQ makes a higher low on the day here, firms up. If so, then that will give the energy to ES to try to pop.
NQ has a gap at 586 3/4.
586.
Which is just below the very recent low.
Okay, and that action zone is around
it's near that, yeah.
Yeah,
it touched
just
that
under
action zone, yeah.
Yeah, so NQ is not ideal, but it's kind of getting in the right vicinity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I could make a better case for, ES to have probably, I could make a better case for ES to actually done good enough. NQ, maybe not yet.
Now, ES has a 625 retrace just a little bit below the overnight low. That'd be a 625 retrace of our purported third wave.
Yeah,
started last week. I don't really think that it will get tested, but that level is there at 33.5.
Yep, I see it. I actually have that same measurement on one of the charts I'm displaying in the bottom right-hand corner of the window.
Okay.
And I have a different kind of measurement that I'm kind of watching on another chart that's off screen. That was a 50% retrace that was actually tested on this low, on our current low. So, again, I think it's a little more difficult to push the ES down than it would be to get a new NQ low. And of course, YM is in its own universe. It's doing well. I'm just going to bring it over to just show that YM is very strong.
That's quite a contrast.
Yeah, very strong. So that would necessarily preclude it from moving down again, or at least consolidating. But certainly strong off the open. So again, that that you see that as part of what is going on with the with the simple averages, right, of the either OEX or S&P 500. I've noticed that the YM chart and those charts move relatively similarly, which sort of makes sense. NQ is trying to hold the higher low. Again, I wouldn't call it definitive yet. Basically, people took a stab at it and they don't really have a confirmation in that they're not above the last little swing high yet. So it could still be a fourth. Kind of pushing on it again. Again, not quite there yet. They might not actually be able to make it happen before 10 o'clock. They're trying. So what time is it now? 9:54. ES is just about, basically retesting the Globex MA, early MA. The day session is up above, kind of around this swing high. Let's call that 68-ish. So again, technically speaking, it's still bearish. Just as a good rule of thumb, if you're underneath the hourly MAs, that you definitely want to be careful taking any kind of long positions. Right, NQ moving down again. So acting like we're having a little intraday, very short-term intraday fourth, pushing down to a new low in possible fifth. ES is also moving down again from the MAs, but kind of has that beach ball pushed under the water kind of feel. To say it's taking more effort to move it down than before. Wants to pop up to the surface.
The tick index is mildly green. So yeah, that's consistent with what you just said. That doesn't mean it's going to rise from here.
Yeah, I don't have my tick kind of things up. Let me kind of pull those charts up for.
Where did your 37 support come from?
I don't remember.
That's okay. I was just curious. It's not crucial. It does look like a good area.
Well, now I'm curious.
I shouldn't have said it.
27 is the expansion level, so I would call that an alternate wave extension. So, okay, so the
hang on, your sound is breaking up. Not really. Good to figure these things out, though. Anyway, you might have a trade coming up, so I don't want to distract you. NQ, I think, just filled its gap.
From
okay. Nice.
Okay. I've been calling that. It's been called wave 2, and when I fish for a retracement level for a wave 4, I always start measuring from wherever
bottom of wave
the
2.
low point in wave 2 is.
Yeah.
And then up, and then whether or not I actually use whatever is the high end price, yes and no. If I think if to B wave, I tend to also measure from the swing to the left, which is what I've done on another chart. And I kind of watch both.
For future calibration here, whatever you were just doing made your sound quality disappear. We couldn't hear you. So
well,
probably positional, like which way you were leaning or something with the Bluetooth mic.
I'm plugged in. I don't have a Bluetooth mic. Okay,
then maybe it was just the connection.
Well, it could be connection, or it's more likely just running too many things.
Okay.
I started another. I opened up a trading view, which is where I kind of keep that sort of tick and advanced decline line and VIX and that kind of things.
So it might have just overwhelmed the chart capturing broadcasting package.
Yeah, and I was going to say is so all these things unfortunately kind of run sort of in a browser, kind of,
Yeah.
and when you get too many of those things running at the same time, even though technically your computer is still okay, if you look at the task manager, you still have resources available, but I've noticed that it can start to lag or kind of have hiccups.
Hmm.
And I really wish people would make these browser run things. I know why they do it because it's an easy way to make it run on everything,
Yes.
but
We
they're
might need
not.
to get you a more robust machine.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that is to just get a real instead of using this laptop, which has been great for probably 4 years now or something like
Hmm.
that. But maybe just really get a desktop. I've kind of poked around. It's like Lenovo have little desktops for about $1,000,
Hmm.
and that might be the right thing to do. Um, anyway, we could talk about that later.
Sure.
But anyway, and that would probably help a little bit because more CPU power, uh, more CPU is better, and after 4 years has probably been enough. I'm not a technology luddite, but I certainly think that we're kind of in kind of an era of diminishing returns, in that
Hmm.
the next year's model isn't that much different than this year's model.
Yes.
So you want to kind of wait for 3 or so years before it even really makes sense to kind of upgrade. So it's probably we're kind of in the spot to where it would probably be kind of worth it, uh, but not in any big hurry. It's okay. But if I'm going to continue streaming, then yeah, the answer is yes, but not. It's not dire, but the answer is yes. Okay, so let's see. We got NQ to make a new low. The news is out. Um, NQ's trying to bounce. I am going to try to help it with that bounce a little bit. Where's the yes? Sort of in the middle. YM is moving up, of course. Of course it is. Tick is recovering, but still, not awesome.
I think it's been mildly green so far.
Yeah.
Almost neutral.
VIX has been rising, which sort of makes sense. Market's been down. But could be retracing. Again, NQ is looking pretty good. ES is back up to those MAs again. So this is kind of we're going to find out if bears give up here pretty soon. So this is pretty important for the rest of the day, probably. This is where the real fight is happening. Well, I would say the real fight might be actually a little bit higher. So the I think this is an important level. The next important level is going to be around 66, 67. You could think about it as kind of go for the gap fill, right? What is the gap fill? Probably 63 ish.
63.
Yeah. And bulls have work to do, but they're doing okay. They're doing okay. Making bears nervous. I would say this morning is not what a bear was hoping for. Excuse me, bull. Making bears nervous is that I think bears were hoping to get more follow through off of their sell. Like I said, it did get a new low versus certainly on a day session chart and on a 4 a.m. start time, but they didn't get under the Globex low. And that's pretty much, I'm sure, what they were hoping for. YM is just skyrocketing. YM is not interested in moving down at all. So I think the Bears are giving up, at least for a while. They're going to have to regroup at the other end of the range. Maybe 82 ish or something. I'm just kind of eyeballing it now. I didn't measure anything. I think there's their gap fill. Okay, that was the first bullish target. This would be the next place that bears, try to dip a toe in to kind of stem the tide for them. But again, got to be careful. I am leaning probably to up, but again, I'm acknowledging that there's going to be a fight here. Advanced decline lines improving. Still under zero, but improving. Bulls trying to hold an NQ. Again, this is there's kind of a fight taking place.
When I'm watching screens at a moment like this is an emotional struggle because I have a fear that I'm going to miss out on the move, and yet I know I should wait for a good entry moment,
Yes.
which would be lower.
So you either want to buy lower or you want to buy some kind of tiny pullback above. It's, one time I did take a class from somebody that I have mixed feelings about. However, not to say that there was not some pieces of wisdom in it. One of them is it's not your job to break the line. Let somebody else do it, right? So when you find one of these sort of places where the battle's going to take place, us little fishes, it's not our job. let the big fish battle it out.
Certainly. It really does help, though, to have that framework that you're looking at it through, that this is the place where the battle is happening.
Right.
And that it isn't always obvious unless you think it through kind of the way you described earlier. A pullback into the 15 and 5-minute MAs, which is not very far, I would think would be a reasonable pullback.
Right. And could a pullback turn into, another bear run? I mean, it's possible. Again, sort of like say a bear that was just kind of like sitting again, kind of letting the morning kind of play out, saying, okay, I'm going to let them see if they can get the gap fill.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they got the gap fill. Now I'm going to start kind of dipping my toe in and see if I could push away from that. That's fine. But I think that I'm going to say that they had the early bears were watching the Globex, and they were pushing down off the Globex hourly MA, and I think that's that was fine. But now that we're above the Globex MA, the people at the people sitting there at the gap fill are like, they're, let's just say they're tentative bears at this point. They're like, I'll dip a toe in maybe, but I'm not married to the position, right? Just like, look, I'm going to put a toe in. If it starts working my way, that's good. Maybe I'll add. We'll see. But if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to be quick to pull the plug, right? So I'm watching to see if they pull the plug. And if they do pull the plug, my guess is that probably sets the tone for most of the rest of the day. And of course, the big numbers for the week are tomorrow in the morning. Let's see, what do we have here? Let's see, again, day session hourly MA is just a little higher, call it 67. Mm-hmm. The 15-minute around 75.
Technically, it's at 70.
Okay. Basically, these overnight kind of shelf. That's fine. NQ still would have some work to do to get up to its kind of 15-minute MAs. It may try to retest the bottom of this shelf from yesterday. Again, kind of let this fight take place here, which could just make it choppy, which is just not a great place to trade in. I don't like it. So just kind of watching. So where was the trade today? I don't like the move off the open personally, but it works a lot of the time. So pushing down away from the MAs on the open, and you get whatever you get. So that was an opportunity. I was a buyer lower. And again, that there was an opportunity for that to work out. So whatever your predilection was, whether you wanted to have bear, wanted to sell or whether you wanted to buy, you had opportunity early. I don't think your opportunity is now. I think you just kind of see what's going on. Another way to look at it as just from a bigger picture, kind of looking at it from the week, is that look, all the data, the most important data is tomorrow in the morning. So do you really want to pound, do you really want to get super bared up or super bulled up for that matter before you see that number? Probably not. So that makes me think that we're probably just going to try to find some kind of median somewhere out here and then kind of park for the rest of the day. YM has had no pullback of any note. It's, again, just stretching higher. Of course, is the RSI overbought at this level? Sure. You would think that there would be a consolidation coming up, but it may be from higher.
The index average for the S&P 500 has flattened out since just a little bit after 10 a.m.
That kind of makes sense.
Although it looks like that could be partly a result of a bad data point again.
Okay, well, I so far in the NQ and or the Nasdaq 100 version and the OEX version has clean data so far. I haven't seen any bad ticks. It's actually been, knock on some wood, been pretty good for the last couple of weeks. It's ever since that you kind of mentioned that they were thinking about ever since you mentioned that they were thinking about
kind of try to fix it. Yeah,
fix it. It's been okay, and I'm glad they tried to fix it instead of just saying, maybe we'll just get rid of it. Like, no, don't get rid of it.
I encouraged them to keep it. I do think OEX, the OEX one, is less susceptible to these bad ticks because there are fewer inputs.
But I used to see them in the NDX, and they were bad, and like again, lately it's been pretty good. So, and you could say is like, well, is it really giving you anything that you couldn't find in, say, the advanced decline line? Like, well, I just think it moves a little cleaner.
Actually, it works well because you can literally put the 9.5 count onto it.
Sure, and you can and because it seems to it kind of runs in bands, whatever kind of band you want to use, those kind of are helpful. Also, I like it when, as an example, it may make a new low and price may not make a new low. So I'm kind of watching those kind of divergences at extremes, and I find those helpful. So it's those little things that I like, and so yeah, I'm definitely a fan of it. Again, it's one of those things that I think it's helpful to look at something that is a little out of band, right? Everybody is focused on price movement. Kind of want to I think it's a good idea to incorporate something that is not necessarily price movement. It's price movement and measured in a different way, let's say. It's helpful. That's the whole idea from years ago from the guy who actually came up with this idea of watching the OEX. Like, is the OEX as important as it was 20 years ago? I would say no, because just how the market has developed since then is that we have all these ETFs that mimic the S&P 500. That was originally meant to be a retail product. It's like, hey, you want to buy the S&P 500? Buy specs, you know, buy SPY. But it actually turned out to be a an investment vehicle for professionals. They're just like, well, this is just the easy way to buy the basket, and I don't have to buy the basket myself. I'll just buy the SPY. And then you got started getting the people that were like, well, we're just going to trade options on the SPY and blah, blah, blah. And so that kind of takes away a little bit of the power of the OEX. The OEX used to be kind of considered sort of like where the smart money was, quote, smart money, I'm making air quotes. Just the institutional players would kind of make their positions around the OEX. And the fact that, look, if you see big divergences between what the OEX is doing and the SPUs, that's probably going to come back together. That's probably not going to persist. And I think that is somewhat still valid. So it's a good thing to watch on, but maybe not as quite as deterministic. The guy who originally came up with this that I read on his ideas, like basically you just put your ES chart up next to your SPU charts and more or less trade your ES or SPUs off of what the OEX is doing, and that will get you a little bit of an edge. Now you could almost say the same thing. You could say it's like, well, I don't want to have the OEX up, but I may actually, even though I'm trading futures, I may actually watch a SPY chart, because it's going to be those kind of levels of things like gap fills and where was the last consolidation, the last little fourth, if you want to look at it that way. Those type of things, those things will tend to be show up and affect the market movement. So, which is all just a long-winded way of saying that I think that if you just have a futures chart in front of you and you don't have something else, you probably have one hand tied behind your back. Okay, so anyway, bears are trying, again, they kind of they're putting in a feeler here. Whether you want to say it is against the gap fill or against the day session hourly MA, either way. Also getting a little bit of a pullback finally in YM. Emphasis on little. So right now we just have people playing sort of ping pong, which you see a lot of times when you get a difference between the Globex at hourly MA and the day session MA. It's not it's not at all uncommon to see kind of some kind of a ping pong between them, kind of move a little bit of movement back and forth as people kind of test each one against the other. All right, Bears doing okay. I wouldn't consider that he did anything wrong. I think if you're bullish, you haven't even been interested yet because now what you're watching for, if you want to be bullish, is you're interested in a higher low. Now you're getting to where you might start to be watching for if that starts to develop. All right, that a little bit of buying, I would say that roughly kind of the place where bulls would start to get interested kind of worked out. That was kind of the early location. I wouldn't say bulls have won yet, but it definitely is a warning to bears. Like, not quite as easy as we're hoping for. Oh, there we go. Big tick. A little bit of tiny capitulation there. Now we'll see if that will create enough follow through to kind of grind through, 66, 67 or something like that. Where's the next place above that? Where should we try to, if bulls do kind of gain control. Where do we go for? I don't know, maybe 79. Yeah. Uh, Back around here somewhere. But that's getting ahead of it. They still need to get over this area first.
Yeah, if you set the phi growth levels at Friday's low, then a retest of a higher low of around 78, 77 looks kind of attractive.
All right. I like that. That's all. That all looks like a good area.
And it seems to be recognizing those levels since last week. So that family of levels is still valid.
Off of which low did you measure from?
Off of Friday's low. In fact, it found support at one of those levels this morning, overnight during the Globex session.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that makes second. That makes sense. All right, bears are definitely kind of flexing a little bit here. There's minor news at 11. Fast bears are puking. Again, they're not so certain that they could pull it off. But I give them credit for trying pretty hard. In NQ, we have what looks like might be higher lows. I'm going to move this chart over for just a second. Okay, ignore all the lines. All right. Really what we want to look at is like, okay, so this was the post 10 a.m. low. We have time to move up. Maybe an impulse, maybe not. Hard to tell for certain, but let's pretend it is ABC, and then big rally off of that. So we're going to come and put pressure on all these overhead numbers now. stepping back, this is a 12-minute chart. Don't ask questions. It just is. Why 15? Why instead of 15? Well, just because. But anyway, you could use a 15-minute chart. It doesn't matter. But the whole idea is that we went ahead, tested this action zone, moved up, higher low. I would guess that they're going to try to get this MA and this other related action zone level. Call that 727 or so. That's the next target. I don't have anything cyclically that is really very helpful. It probably accounts for why we've had sort of a choppy up and down. I don't know if your cycles look better than mine.
Nothing that looks clear to me. One of the faster cycles seems to be peaking now, but I don't know whether to trust it.
Right. The fastest cycle I monitor with kind of up into, just past 11. So probably something similar to what you have, maybe 11:10. So most of the energy off of a possible cycle low, we've kind of expended that now. YM again is on another high. So the problem for ES is the NQ. If the NQ does a little bit better here, starts to break, then that'll be very helpful for ES. That sort of matches up that, ES, whether you look at it as still needing to work on the day session MA, hourly MA, or this series of highs, this little shelf from late yesterday, the overnight here, kind of pushing up against that. or measured another way. You look at another way on another chart. Kind of 66 level. All about the same area. I would say if we start to spend time above 66, don't be in a hurry to short. This area has been tested once, twice, 3 times today. Right? If bulls hope to be able to grind over, they don't want this next retrace to be very deep. They're kind of running out of the cat's running out of live, so to speak. If they're going to do this, they need to start to hold instead of pull back. Retrace in time instead of price. I'm going to step away, refill my coffee. Be back in a few minutes. All right, back. NQ still looks kind of sick. YM, of course, is still pushing higher, but is starting to run into some phi resistance. And has an exhaustion bar coming up on the next candle. That's around 505-ish. Again, I wouldn't necessarily want to fade YM, but definitely a good place if you trade YM to lock in something. That would probably be bearish for ES. If YM does kind of begin to consolidate a little bit, that would make it to where ES is more likely to try to retest a little bit lower. NQ, choppy down, hard to be super bearish, but it's certainly not, it's not bullish behavior for certain. You know, we can see that we have lower highs, lower lows. So definitely, if I were to guess which indices should make a new low, I would bet on NQ. ES, I'm much less certain of, and I'm not even certain in NQ. YM is just on fire. It just doesn't want to stop. I had been a buyer of some of the lows in NQ, but I'm less in a hurry to do that now. I don't really like how it's not been able to break higher. I'm just going to watch for a while. Should probably just work on charts, not watch the market. What is crude doing? Being difficult. Not really breaking up, not really breaking down. What are bonds doing? Trying to stabilize, which I can live with. Kind of the same kind of problem that crude has in a way. Though I am more bullish on bonds than I am in crude. But here in the very short term, we could still get a new low while we're under 116.02. RSI is trying to reset. Okay. Again, we're probably waiting for the number tomorrow. Maybe we could get kind of a thrust and then we can kind of get a reversal. But I'm assuming that this is probably corrective behavior. I'm going with an A down, a B, C. No, excuse me. This is a potential 5. I'm calling this a B wave high. So A, B, maybe a C down to around here. But I think it's kind of hard to press ZB lower. But Tom, bonds are going to go down. Big picture, I agree with that. Real big picture, I'd have to go to the weekly or monthly chart. But I think we need a better bounce sometime this year before we turn down. So that's what I'm kind of working with there. What else do we have? I'm just kind of quickly going through these. I actually need to post charts, and that will take me a while. What's DX doing? Probably the same kind of thing. Oh, better. Well, we might actually get DX to kind of pop up out here. Let's pop this chart out. Like this. This is good. A, B, also 5 down, so A, B, C for a 2, trying to come up out of that, needs over 99 for confirmation. But I like that. I am definitely dollar bullish. All the talk of the end of the dollar I find amusing. Yes, I understand. Big picture, it will lose value. Don't get me wrong, I understand that. But relative to everything else, I think DX is going to do well. Gold, my nemesis for the last year. It's the market I've been the most wrong on. And by corollary, silver is the same. I've been skeptical for a while and it's just nothing but gone up. I do not trade it, so there might be something to that. But overall, I would like to buy gold if it was cheap. I just don't think it's cheap now. Still trying to climb up into this area up here. We had that little scary little drop, recovered, so we probably will have to let it try for a little higher. But again, I think this whole formation is late in development, so sort of like everything else that is being sort of risk on. Cat is cranky. I don't know why. NQ trying to come back alive again, but it's going to be testing the kind of intraday downtrend. When you look at these 8-minute bars, and it's been basically sideways all day today. In a approximately 10-point range. kind of the best run of NQ this morning. Well, aside from the move off of 10 o'clock. I'd say if you're long, you definitely want to have something locked in. I don't think you successfully have a breakout yet, so bears could still try to do something. I have to say that it's still sort of bearish, unless it's just going to hang out here. Maybe kind of park it till tomorrow. The one thing to make me not think that is just how strong YM has been today. But NQ looks pathetic, really. I mean, they push it down, it pops back up, push it down, pops back up. But if you just back up out of it, it looks bearish. Just look like a completed pattern. I would guess the only way that you could get out of that would be as if we kind of hold here and then push up against the highs again. But if it slips down too much lower, I just think that it's probably best to allow NQ to make a new low. Which is just, I suppose, a long-winded way of saying that I'm tired of buying supports. It's worked, but I worry about it. It's not going to work the next time. I'm going to exit streaming. It's pretty boring, and it is. Wonder if it's going to be the reason why I kind of get lag. So I'm going to maybe have to investigate some other streaming software, which I will this afternoon. I don't really have a lot to say other than that I haven't already said. Uh, this is pretty weak performance if it's going to break up. It may not want to break up until we see news tomorrow. In fact, it might still try for a new low. NQ still looks kind of weak. They'd say if we were going to actually push up out of this, it would require NQ holding here, moving sideways, and then breaking higher. I'm not sure if we have enough catalyst to break higher before tomorrow. So the bears may finally win out here, and if they do, we'll kind of push it down into pretty much a new low for the day. Should try for this retest of the Globex low. May even try for 27. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to stop streaming. I want to watch the performance of my computer here, but I don't like how it's behaving.